Hey, and another day, another new video. But for some time, I have wanted to make a video for y'all to get to know me a little bit, Does that make sense? Let's get started. Well, some quick basic facts about me is that I was born in Eastern Europe on February 5th, 2005, and I am currently 20 years old. At the moment, I'm not really sure about sharing exactly where I'm from and what ethnicity I am, but maybe later I will. I don't know, it's just I'm being weird right now, so that's why I'm saying that. But something else about me is that my favorite colors include blue, periwinkle, and lavender. I know those are like periwinkle and lavender are purple, but they're like very specific shades of purple, and I really like them. And I think that my favorite colors kind of reflect what my favorite season is, which is winter. And before I mentioned that I was born in Eastern Europe, but currently I actually live abroad with my family for about 15-16 years when I was around 5 or 6 years old. And because of that, I went to school for my whole life with my 3 older siblings. So I'm the youngest, plus I also have a fuzzy little cat who's a Scottish fold actually. And because of the different countries that I've lived in, my home country and also abroad, I'm also bilingual. I speak both Russian and English, and all my classes in school were taught in English, so I'm pretty much 100% fluent in English. And not gonna lie, my English is actually somewhat better than my Russian. Not somewhat, but actually a lot better than my Russian. And I think that's because I am able to use English a lot more than my Russian, but I do like being able to use Russian whenever I can, whether that is, with my family or like just out and about. And yeah, but I do mostly use Russian with my family and whenever I interact with other Russian-speaking people anyway, but I wish I could use more of it with other people. And yeah, I think that's kind of the language bit stuff. I also want to mention, while we were on the topic of school, I wanted to mention that in school, some of my favorite subjects were English. That was like my top favorite subject, but also I was also a big fan of biology, history, band, theater, and art. I was pretty much like the art kid and band kid in school. Something else that I think many people, or at least a few people watching, can relate to is that in real life I'm a very introverted person, and because of my little introvertedness, a lot of the time I prefer to stay cooped up in the comfort of my room. But at the same time, I would love to get into more activities that get me out of my comfort zone, like forming more friends and doing activities that get me out of the house more, like ice skating or tennis or something. I don't know, something. But I think that my introvertedness is one of the reasons as to why I've always wanted to make videos, and kind of why in general I've always been drawn to online spaces as a whole. And I guess it was to kind of form a small community with like-minded people and to get my thoughts and ideas out there into the void, into my little corner of the world, if I could say. Well, I kind of also wanted to mention the types of things that interest me and maybe some hobbies so that you can know me even better, as my interests and hobbies include a lot of different things, of course. that maybe a lot or maybe just some of you may relate to. Well, I hope that at least some of you may watch and say, "Ooh, I like that too. I'm interested in that as well." Or something like that. Something not as stupid, but yeah. Well, okay, so overall, I would say that the biggest things that I am is an artist, a writer, and an editor, and also somewhat of a musician, and just an overall crafter, as I also like to just make things and with my hands or something. So I really love to draw because I mentioned I'm an artist and I've been drawing all of my life, but I'm not that good, but I am slowly getting there, getting to being kind of good at least. Just developing my own style, finally sitting down and learning the art fundamentals, which I've been wanting to sit down and learn for a long time, but I've been putting off because when I look at the art fundamentals, they stress me out because I see that there's a lot of them, but if I want to be good at art, I gotta do what I gotta do for my passions, and it's fun. It's like fun. I've been slowly, learning different art fundamentals and practicing them, so you gotta start somewhere. But anyway, enough about art. I also like reading books from time to time, but not only do I like reading books, I also like writing. And I'm really into journaling and writing things like poetry, short stories, and just any creative writing in general. And at the moment, if anyone's interested, probably not, I am actually slowly drafting up my first ever fanfic, which you can expect to see on AO3. That is not a plug. It kind of is, but I'm gonna shamelessly plug that. And I'm also in the slow process of writing a completely original short story with original characters and stuff. I also have a bunch of other original characters with a whole universe that sit and stir in my head. But I am also so into writing that I also really like to write little think pieces on Tumblr and writing whole ass essays as reviews on Letterboxd, because for the life of me I cannot just write a simple review or a simple little post on the internet sometimes. I just gotta get my thoughts out there, and that's something that I like to do. And I know I said all of that, and some of what I said was definitely not me trying to promote my Tumblr, AO3, and Letterboxd pages, and it wasn't me plugging, but me specifically mentioning that I do those things on Tumblr, AO3, and Letterboxd was me trying to plug them. So please follow me on there. You can find them on the About Me page and the About Me section on YouTube, and I'll probably plug them in the description. And I also want to mention that I said I like reading books. Some of the things I like to read include like comics, classics, fantasy. I haven't been reading as much as I would like, but I've been slowly trying to get myself into reading, like really reading this past year, but it's been very slow. But hopefully that gets better with time, because for a long time I've been bed drawing and not getting anything that I want. But apart from writing or drawing or reading, I'm also really into making friendship bracelets. I've been making them ever since I was a kid, but for the last couple of months I've been really into making friendship bracelets with intricate designs. Not very intricate, that's like hard, but like with just different patterns and stuff. Um, but also, I'm also trying to get into crocheting, partly because I have a friend who crochets, and their crochet obsession is kind of rubbing off on me. So, when and if I finish a crochet project, maybe I'll let y'all know about it. Make a little YouTube video about my process and stuff like that. Maybe, hopefully, I don't know. Um, yeah, I'm really into friendship bracelets and just crafting and stuff, but another thing that I'm really into is making edits, and that's where the editor part comes in. When I mentioned I'm an artist, writer, editor, and stuff like that. And I have been making edits since 2022, and my edits are very multi-fandom instead of all being of a particular fandom, because I genuinely cannot stick to a single fandom to make edits of, because I have so many ideas about different edits that I can make of different characters, different fandoms, and also a lot of my edits, I don't really have a particular style. My style is just what kind of vibe I want an edit to be. So, if you are into watching edits, you know that like certain editors have like a particular style, but I don't really know what my style is. It's just me style, But maybe I should link my edits account down below so you guys can check it out. Maybe follow, maybe like a few videos. Maybe I will link it down below, maybe I won't. It all depends on whether or not I want to plug that, because I think I kind of already plugged a couple of things already, but maybe I will. Or maybe people in the comments can say like, yeah, we want to check it out, link down below. Maybe no one will, but who knows. Some other things I'm really into is that I also really like solving puzzles in my free time. I don't know if that sounds like a granny activity, but I really do. I especially love jigsaws and sudokus, both of which I've kind of been doing since I was a kid. I have a few puzzles, jigsaw puzzles that I have in my room that I have completed. I have some that I haven't really completed, and I have a whole book of Sudoku puzzles that I sometimes do. Another thing that I'm really into is that I'm also a big gamer. I love to play games, and not just video games, even though those are fun, like on my computer or phone/iPad, but I also really like board games and card games. I usually play them with family because, for board games and card games, you kind of have to play with other people, but one of my cousins is a very big fan of board games, and he kind of got everyone into it, because, he's a big fan of it. And a very fun board game, I would say, is Cosmic Encounter. It does take a long time to complete if you're with a lot of people. But for card games, Uno is definitely a classic. It's definitely our go-to when we just want to relax and don't want to play 10 hours of a board game where you have to think about a bunch of different things. But for Uno, it gets really fun when you start playing the Uno spin-off editions, like the different editions of Uno that aren't just regular Uno. We have a few of those. Those are kind of fun. Also, even though a while ago I said that I'm not much of an outdoor person, something that I really enjoy doing from time to time is going on walks. In the fall/winter months and kind of spring and slightly into the spring season, it gets nice, kind of. But the area also, like where I live, the area where I live is very nice for walking, so that's why I've been really into getting into walks and stuff like that, because, yeah, the area is very nice. It's like meant for walking and stuff. I also remember that I mentioned before that I'm also somewhat of a musician, and I mentioned that now because I do kind of want to show off and brag, kind of, and say that I can play a couple of instruments, but kind of half-assed, to be honest. And some of the instruments that I can half-assed play is the flute, clarinet, piano, and guitar. And, to be honest, I think that's kind of a fun little icebreaker fact to say, like, oh yeah, I play a bunch of instruments. You don't really have to tell people that, like, how well you play it, but just mention it. Everyone's gonna be like, oh wow, you're so talented, blah blah. Does anyone else remember how on the first day of school every teacher made us do like icebreaker activities on the first like week of school? I just remembered that, not gonna lie. Those icebreaker activities were fun, but maybe that's just me though. I don't know. They were fun, but a lot of people didn't like them in school because they were awkward, but I don't know. In my school it was fun. But, yeah, moving on. So, apart from the plethora of hobbies that I mentioned, as a multifaceted person that I am, some of my specific interests that I'm really into that I can think of from the top of my head include things like linguistics. And as someone who loves linguistics but only knows 2 languages, I would really love to know more languages though. I just want to mention that because I said I was into linguistics, but I only know 2 languages. And I'm actually currently learning a language at the moment. I'm currently learning Icelandic, and some of you may ask, why Icelandic? That's like, there's no use for it for most people, but for me, in the future, I'm hoping it's going to be useful due to certain things I want to do in the future, but also I just wanted to kind of challenge myself. But yeah, some of my other interests include literature, of course, art, obviously, but I'm also into things like true crime, history, anything horror related. I'm also very interested in different sciences, even though I am very much into the humanities. I also love science, like astronomy and biology, psychology. I'm also really interested in figure skating, even though I don't really figure skate. I've never figure skated. I'm even terrible at ice skating, like I'm really bad at it. But I think you can thank Yuri on Ice for my interest in figure skating, because that show changed my life when I was 12 years old. I watched it when I was 12, and my life has not been the same since. But also something else I'm a big fan of, that is pretty common, and I don't know if this even needs a separate kind of section, like, I don't know, talking point, but I am also a big fan of things like visual media and storytelling. That includes obvious things like movies, TV shows, cartoons, and anime, but I mention my interest in visual media and storytelling because there are two very specific things that I want to mention separately, and that is that I am a big fan of short films and musicals. I know a lot of people are fans of musicals, but for me, something that I think is interesting to know is that I'm really into short films. I have whole playlist of like short films on YouTube that you can check out in my channel. Sorry for another plug, but I just want to mention that. But fun fact about me is that in middle school I was in 2 different plays. The first play that I was in, it was just a regular play, and the other one was specifically a musical, and both were very fun to do. Maybe they were so fun that maybe I should join like a local theater, but I don't know. I have to check that out. If there is any fun local theaters where I live, there should be, because it's like a very big city that I live in, so there should be something for anyone. So yeah, that's all for now. I hope that you found something in common and something that made you subscribe to me. But subscribing isn't the main thing, just maybe finding someone that you have in common with, and you can be like, wow, this person is similar to me, blah blah blah, you know. But something that I want to mention at the end is that, you know, just so you know, is that this YouTube channel and all my YouTube channels and anywhere that I am in the internet, if you're ever interested in checking out my other corners of the internet or my other YouTube channels, and what I wanted to say is that all of those places will always be safe and accepting places for anyone who feels lonely or something. I don't know. That's kind of cringe, but hopefully not. But anyone and everyone can subscribe, and hopefully everyone can see, not everyone, but just in general, someone can find something in common, or maybe find some comfort in just watching a regular person make regular videos that aren't too fancy or like super like wow, and be like, wow, this is like really interesting. I don't really know what to say, but hopefully you guys understand what I'm trying to say, or just anyone who's watching understands what I was trying to say. But yeah, see you in the next video, and hopefully that video is soon. So yeah, bye.